Okay, so today we're going to be talking about MLA practice for your rewriting history essays. So we're going to talk about works cited, we're going to talk about summaries, and we're going to talk about quotations. And in addition to talking about those things, I've also got pictures throughout this lecture. So if you don't have any ideas yet about what movie you might want to look into, I've got those throughout to sort of help you brainstorm and possibly find one that you want to use. Okay, so let's get started with works cited. So for a movie, the things that you need to know are the title of the movie, the director's full name, the performers' full names, and when it comes to performers, you need at least one of the actors' names. If you want to include 2, 3, 4 names, that's fine, but you're not required to. You need at least one. Please don't list the entire cast. I would say certainly not more than 4 names. The distributing company, so that is the company that produced the actual movie, and we'll talk about how to find that in just a second. And then the year it was released. So these are the pieces of information that you will always need when you're citing a movie. So how do you find this information? Well, the easiest thing to do is to go to the website imdb.com. That stands for Internet Movie Database, and we're going to go there right now to look for our sample movie, Defiance. So let's go there, and we will put in the movie that we're looking for. And here's where we find all of our information. So obviously we already knew the title. Here's the year it was released. And then if we scroll down, we will find here's the director's name, here are the actors' names, and if we scroll down underneath the cast, we will find company credits. So here is where you find what companies produced the movie. Now notice there's a bunch of them. We don't need to put all of them. I usually say put whatever the first company is or whatever the biggest, most important one is, ones that you've heard of before. Paramount, Sony, Warner Brothers. All you need is one. So if we go back to our lecture, so we've got all of our information, and when we put it all together, this is what it looks like. The movie title in italics, and then we want to put the words directed by and put the director's full name, comma, performances by, and then our actors, and here I've just got the first 2 actors, the company name, and then the year it was released. Don't forget to tab over any lines other than the first and put a period at the end. But this is what it looks like when we put it all together. So that is for a movie. For a TV show, you need the title of the episode, the title of the actual show, the season, the episode, the network that it's on. And now there's 2 other variants depending on how you watched it. If you watched it on TV, you would need to include the city and the date that it aired. If you watched it on something like Netflix or Hulu, you would want to include the date that you watched it and the name of that service or website. So again, how do we find this information? Sometimes you can find it on IMDb. Other times you can find it just by Googling it. So just to show you with this example, if we put in South Park Fatbeard is the name of our episode. Over here it gives us the basic information. So here's the show, the season it was in, the episode it was, the original air date. I'm not seeing the network, but if you didn't know what the network was, oh, here it is down here, Comedy Central. So it's got all of that information included right here. So let's go back. And again, if you watched it on TV, here's what it would look like. You'd have the episode title in quotation marks. Now, why are they in quotation marks? Because an episode is a small piece of something bigger. So smaller things go in quotation marks. bigger things go in italics. And you want to think about, is this a piece of something bigger, or is this a big thing that can be broken down into smaller pieces? An episode is a smaller piece of a TV show, so the episode title goes in quotation marks. The title of the TV show goes in italics. So it's title of the episode, title of the TV show, season, episode, network, and then the date that you watched it on TV, or the date that it was originally aired. I'm not going to double check it and make sure that you put the correct air date. Just put, again, either the original air date or whatever date you watched it. Now, if you watched it on something like Hulu or Netflix, it looks a little different. So you still include title of the episode, title of the TV show, season, episode, network, but the date is going to be the date that you watched it on that website. And then you want to include the name of the website in italics. That's included in italics because it's considered a container. Containers are the sources that you went to find these things. So a TV show is a container because it contains the episode, but the website also is where you watched it, so that's considered a container as well. And then you want to include the link that you watched it at. So this is what it looks like when you put it all together for a TV show, one of these two. Okay, so, and if you ever get confused about how to do this, I want you to go to this website, OWL, and here it comes up automatically, OWL Purdue. It stands for Online Writing Lab. Purdue is the name of the university that it's at. And then you can type in whatever source you're looking for. So put in MLA and then TV show. So if we put that in, it's going to show us the page we can go to find that. MLA Works Cited, other common sources. We scroll down, we see here's interviews, speeches, paintings, songs, films, TV shows. And here's where we have the information. So please remember, when it comes to Works Cited, I'm not expecting you to memorize how to format it. I only expect you to know how to look it up. So here is where you get that information. Let's go back to our lecture and talk about internet articles. So for an internet article, you want the author's full name, if there is an author, the article name, the website name, the sponsor, now there may or may not be one, the date that it was posted, again there may or may not be a post date, the web link, so that means, you know, www. whatever, where you found it, and then the accessed date, the date that you looked at it. So again, let's talk about how to find some of this information with our example. We want to look at the Kathy Schultz article on the movie Walk the Line. So this is on the History in the Movies website. So here we have our author's name, Kathy Schultz. We have the title of the article. It's just Walk the Line. It's the same as the movie, and so we'll put it in quotation marks because this is the name of the article. Here we have the day it was posted. There's no date, but there is a month and a year, so we'll put that information. Now when it comes to who sponsors it, this is a university website, and so we've got the name of that university, University of St. Francis, so we can put that as our sponsor. If we didn't have that, we would just leave it out. So let's go back and put all the information together. We have our author listed first, last name, comma, first name. The article title in quotation marks. Oop, yeah, Johnny Cash Reveal. I don't know where I got that title. So it may have just been Walk the Line. Either of those would be fine. History in the Movies is the name of the website. That goes in italics. University of St. Francis is our sponsor. The original post date, well, I did have a day. I must have looked at this somewhere else and gotten all this information. But anyway, this is the basics. And then here's our link. That's if you copied this from the search bar at the top, this is the link to the actual website. And then accessed, here's the day that we accessed it. So you put all of it together, and this is what it looks like. I want to show you, I don't think it'll, yeah, it's not going to do that. So if, for example, let me see if I can, oops, no, go back. If I can edit this, no. All right, here we go. So if I accidentally hyperlinked this, yeah, there we go. So a lot of students ask me, when they include their links, on their works cited, it's hyperlinked them. So hyperlinked means it's underlined them. Often it turns the font blue, and students, and that's wrong. You don't hyperlink them in your works cited. So students will say, well, how do I unhyperlink it? It's so easy. You just right-click and remove hyperlink, and it undoes it. So if I've marked something on your works cited that says don't hyperlink, just right-click on it whenever you see your works cited including things, including these links and underlining them and putting them in a different font. Just click, right-click, do remove hyperlink, and it'll put it back to how it's supposed to be. All right, so when you, so when you put them all together, these are our three sources. The other thing I wanted to mention is that you have to remember to alphabetize. So when you have multiple sources, everything goes in alphabetical order according to whatever letter comes first. So we would put D, Defiance first, then F, Fatbeard, then S, Schultz. So it doesn't matter that this is an author, this is an article, and this, or sorry, a TV show, and this is a movie name. All that matters is the letter that comes first. So that's how you alphabetize it when you put multiple sources onto a works cited page. Don't forget to title it works cited at the top. Don't underline it, don't bold it. Make sure you spell it right. This is how it's spelled. Make sure you do put that title. So here is your first question for your writing assignment. Here is the information that I'm giving you. The movie Munich, released by DreamWorks in 2006, starring Eric Bana, Daniel Craig, and Jeffrey Rush, directed by Steven Spielberg. So I want you to take all of this information, look at how are you supposed to format a works cited for a movie, and put it together in the right order. Make sure that you are italicizing things that need to be italicized. Make sure that you are tabbing over where you're supposed to be. So even if you're handwriting this, I want you to underline things that would be italicized to show me that you know what should be in italics, and I want you to include your indentation where you're supposed to. Make sure that you do all of that correctly. So go ahead and complete this assignment, and then we'll move on. Hit the pause button if you need to, and I will keep going with our lecture. Oh, oops. Okay, so here's question number 2. Here is your article, website article. It's called The Historical Accuracies of 300, written by Scott Manning, published on the Digital Survivors website on March 17th, 2007, and accessed by you on February 12th. So just like what you did with the previous question, you're going to take this information, put it into the correct order, and make sure that you're using quotation marks where you're supposed to, italics where you're supposed to, that you're including your indentations, that you are abbreviating things that are supposed to be abbreviated, and that you put all of this together in the correct way that you're supposed to. Now, how do you know how to do that? You can go back to where I showed you how to do it in this lecture, or you can bring up that OWL at Purdue website, or maybe you have an MLA 8 book that you can look in. However you want to do it, make sure that you are looking this up. Again, don't try and write it and put it in the right way from memory. That's going to be too hard. You're going to make mistakes. Just take a second, look up how do you format an article from a website and make sure that you're using some kind of book or website that informs you how to do that, how to use the format. And again, that's part of why I give you these lectures, so that if you have no other way of figuring it out, you can always go back into this lecture and see how did I do it, and then use that to format your questions and also your own, for your own papers, your works cited. So go ahead and pause it if you want to work on this one, and then we'll go ahead and move on. So let's talk about summaries and paraphrases for your articles. You want to put everything in your own words when you're summarizing and paraphrasing. Don't forget to include the author's name, and if there's page numbers, I know most of you use internet sources and don't have them, but if you happen to use a book, you need to use those page numbers. So here's an example. The Patriot shows a great deal of historical inaccuracies about what happened in America during the Revolutionary War. Simple enough. That's just summarizing an article, but again, because this didn't come from your own brain, you didn't write that article, you still have to give credit to the source that gave you that information. And so we've got our author's last name here. You can also do it this way. According to Aaron Ledley, a movie critic for Entertainment Weekly, The Patriot is a movie that gets more details about the Revolutionary War wrong than it gets right. So why do we not have to include the author's name in parentheses here? Because we introduced him up here. And this is actually a really good way to do it, to explain who is this person. Well, this is a movie critic for a famous magazine, and so we know that person has ethos. So for your paper, you have to have at least 3 sources, and you're going to use the movie itself as a source, or the TV show, or whatever you're analyzing. Then you can also use movie reviews, historical articles, things like that. If you want to use the extras on a DVD, that counts as a source. If you find interviews on YouTube with the director or with people involved, that's another place that you can find information and use that as a source. But no Wikipedia, no blogs. You will lose points if you're using non-credible sources, and that's what we're going to consider Wikipedia and blogs. You can, if you're looking at a Wikipedia article and you find it citing where it got its information, you can use those sources, but don't use Wikipedia itself. Use at least 3 quotes, summaries, or paraphrases, at least 1 per source. So you must have at least 1 quote from your movie or TV show or whatever, and then at least 1 from 2 other sources, movie reviews, historical articles, whatever they may be. Please use only relevant quotes. There's so few quotes required here that you don't want to waste them on pointless information. So make sure that you're using good quotes. A good place to find good quotes, especially from your movie, is things like the movie poster or the trailer for the movie. Or you can also, if you're looking at movie reviews, it might include quotes that are important to the movie, and so that's another way to find, okay, here's some good quotes from this movie. If you find a quote from a movie review that is of your movie, you don't then have to cite that review, because the same quote is included in your movie. So if you're citing the movie, any quotes from the movie are covered that way. So let's talk about quotes. Remember the quote sandwich. You want to give your character's name, not the actor, but the actual character who says the line. So here's our example. In the movie Defiance, Tuvia Bielski, played by Daniel Craig, says, "It is better to save 1 Jew than to kill 100 Nazis." This is a code the real Tuvia actually lived by, preferring survival over revenge. So we're explaining that this came from the movie, we're giving our character's name, and then we're giving our actor's name in parentheses. You don't have to do that, but if you want to, that's fine. Otherwise, don't worry about who the actor is. And then we've got, here's the line that's said in the movie, and then we're explaining, we don't know for sure if he actually said this, but he definitely lived by this code. That's part of what we see in the movie, and that's part of who that actual real person that the movie is based on. It's part of what he actually believed. And we're citing, how do we know that? So we've got a quote from a movie, and then we explain that yes, this is a true-to-life quote, at least as far as the essence of it. We're explaining how we know that by citing our sources. So this is how you want to do your quotes. It works really well to have quotes and use them to explain how accurate is this? Is this something that this person might have actually said, or is this completely made up? For movie articles and reviews, same kind of thing. Use the quote sandwich, give the source's name, and it's really good to give their credentials too. So here's our example. Defiance is a movie that, according to Carrie Rickety at the Philadelphia Inquirer, is full of historical truths as well as a few little white lies. All of the things that were changed, however, were changed for the greater good of the overall movie. So we've got who our author is that we're quoting. We've got her name and her qualifications, that this is where she works at this magazine. And then we've got quotation marks around what she actually said. And then we're responding to it. Now we don't put an author's name here because this is an opinion. So you're saying, this is my opinion, that the things that were changed were for the greater good of the overall movie. And the assumption here is you would go on to explain. But this is how you want to be incorporating your quotes from your articles, by letting us know who is this person that said this, and then explaining in depth these things that they're saying, and why you might agree or disagree with it. So here's your final question for this writing assignment. So I've included a link to a scene from Braveheart, and I want you to watch it, and then you're going to summarize the speech, and also in your summary include one of the following quotes in the correct quote sandwich format from William Wallace. So I see a whole army of my countrymen here in defiance of tyranny. You've come to fight as free men, and free men you are. Or would you be willing to trade all the days for one chance to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom? So you want to watch that scene, summarize it, and integrate within your summary one of these quotes where you introduce who said it, have the quote itself in quotation marks, and then explain how does that fit into the overall point of the scene, or maybe talk about what you think about this particular quote. How does it fit with the message that William Wallace is trying to give? What is he doing in this scene, and why does this quote matter to the scene? So you can pick any one of these, and I do want to point out these 3 dots, we call that ellipses. So you can use this if you ever leave things out. So this is a long quote right here from William Wallace. We don't want to include all of it, so you can leave things out by just putting those dots there. That shows, okay, I left some of the information out, but the basics is still there. All right, so that's your final question. Go ahead, go to that link, watch that scene, summarize, and use one of these quotes. And then next class we will talk about the answers that you came up with for all 3 questions, and we'll go over them, and you can ask me any questions that you have. All right, so that is it for our MLA practice for your rewriting history paper.